Good evening. Old Testament study time, Sunday evening. Here we are at chapter 31 of 2 Samuel. We're going to finish up 1 Samuel. We're going to finish up 1 Samuel tonight and begin 2 Samuel next week. Just 13 verses in tonight's chapter, so let's finish it up here. Now the Philistines fought against Israel. Some things never change, do they? Turn on the news right now and you've got the Palestinians over there fighting against Israel. Iran's involved, and you say, well, is this the beginning of World War III? Or is it just a continuation of what's been going on for thousands of years over there? The thing that has changed, though, is it ain't bows and arrows anymore. They have all kinds of much more highly technical weaponry, including possibly atomic stuff. So it's come a long ways, but the human nature didn't change, and the hatred between the races hasn't changed. So here we are back in Samuel's day. He said, now the Philistines fought against Israel. And the men of Israel fled before the Philistines, and they fell down slain in Mount Gilboa. That's the mountain chain, Gilboa. And the Philistines followed hard upon Saul and upon his sons. They're out here in the battle. And the Philistines slew Jonathan. Now that's a sad note. That was the beloved friend of the future King David, right? And remember, Jonathan had made David promise when they parted ways. Says, whatever happens, remember and be kind to my family. Jonathan knew that David was going to be king someday. So don't forget that thought when we get over to 2 Samuel. You'll see fulfillment of David's promise there. But they killed Jonathan. They killed both his brothers, Abinadab and Malchishua, Saul's sons. Verse 3, and the battle went sore against Saul. He got in a bad shape over here, and the archers hit him. So old Saul's been wounded by an arrow, and he was sore wounded of the archers. Then said Saul to his armor bearer, draw your sword, thrust me through therewith. So his armor bearer that was traveling, Saul was wounded. He says, you got to kill me. You got to kill me, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me or torture me. So he thought, you kill me to be more humane than them getting a hold of me. But his armor bearer would not, for he was sore afraid. He's probably like me, said that, God don't want me to kill you. Therefore Saul took a sword and fell upon it. So Saul commits suicide, does carry on his own sword here. And when his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he becomes double suicide. He fell upon it. He fell likewise upon his sword and died with him. So Saul died, his 3 sons and his armor bearer, and all his men that same day together. Israel was slaughtered in this battle. And when the men of Israel that were on the other side of the valley, and they were on the other side of Jordan, saw that the men of Israel fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they fled too. They forsook the cities and fled, and the Philistines came and dwelt in them. That's how the Philistines captured formerly Israeli cities, and they became Philistine cities. And it came to pass on the morrow, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, they're going back to the battlefield and take all the stuff that they want. They found Saul and his 3 sons fallen in Mount Gilboa, and they recognized this as Saul now, see, the king. So they cut off his head, and they stripped him of his armor, and they sent him to the land of the Philistines round about. They sent that head all throughout, and his armor too, to publish it in the house of their idols and among the people. That was like the way to show everybody that, hey, we've killed the king of Israel. And they put his armor in the house of Ashtaroth, their god. And they fastened his body to the wall of Bethshan. They nailed his headless body to the wall. And when the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard of that which the Philistines had done to Saul, so the Israelite people, they heard how they've treated their king, all the valiant men arose and went all night. They took the body of Saul and the body of his sons from the wall at Bethshan. And they came to Jabesh, and they piled their corpses up and cremated them. They had a funeral, and they burned them, and the bones that were left, verse 13, they took their bones and buried them under a tree at Jabesh, and then they all fasted for 7 days to mourn their loss of their king and the loss of their cities and the loss of their soldiers. And First Samuel kind of ends on a very sad note, but I'll tip you off as we begin Second Samuel next week that originally there wasn't a First and Second Samuel. There was just a Samuel, and it's been divided into First Samuel and Second Samuel. So the story continues. It's really just one story and one book of Samuel in the Hebrew original. All right, we'll catch up next week, and we'll chapter 1. We'll go over some of the stuff we just read in these short 13 verses. See you next week.